Welcome back to Apatros Review. In this episode, Drums in the Deep South. Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review. I'm your host, Mila Sipka, and join me as I take you on a ride through the wild world of science fiction, action, and horror, all from my personal DVD collection. About 1,200 DVDs, plus a few Blu-rays, video games, TV shows, and whatever. In this episode, we look at the film Drums in the Deep South, directed by William Cameron Menzies, the legendary production designer of Gone with the Wind, in the year 1951. This was an RKO Pictures release, and it premiered in the US on the 16th of October 1951. Now, if you want to track this on DVD, it is a public domain title. It was available on a cheap 50-film box set of action classics from Payless Entertainment during the early to mid-2000s. It's also available from Mill Creek in the USA. This was the directorial debut of celebrated production designer William Cameron Menzies, whose fine work as a production designer on the classic Gone with the Wind was crucial for that film's success. He practically invented the role of production designer. Drums in the Deep South is also the first production from King Brothers Productions, which was in a deal with RKO Radio Pictures, which also put out the science fiction classic The Thing from Another World that same year, and was shot in Super Cinecolor, although it was a B-grade production when budget was considered. The year is 1861, right on the eve of the American Civil War. Best friends and West Point graduates, Clay Claiborne and Will Denning, pay a joint visit to their fellow friend and graduate Braxton Summers' home in Georgia, Atlanta, for a nice dinner to catch up on the usual friends business at the time. Braxton has developed a process for refining cotton that he hopes will boost his financial prospects to make him rich. But what Braxton doesn't know is that Clay is actually in love with his wife Kathy, who is seriously considering leaving her husband that night with Clay. They even steal a kiss when nobody's looking. But right before they can sit down for the actual dinner, war is declared, and Clay and Will need to go to their posts on opposite sides. But they leave on good terms, hoping to stay friends for life despite the positions on either side. The Civil War rages on, and by 1864, Clay is now a field artillery major in the Confederate Army. He has developed a reputation for accepting and surviving suicide missions, so his superiors decide to use him for a crucial mission to try to delay Union General Sherman's march to the sea. They're basically given to buy enough time for the Confederates to counterattack. Their plan is simple. Use a local guide in Georgia to set up an artillery strike force on top of Devil's Mountain, so they can use their battery of field guns, 12-pound Brooks guns, to play havoc on the local Union-controlled railway, destroying any Union train that comes by, thereby denying the Yankees their supplies and slowing down their progress, so the South can buy enough time to defeat the North. Coincidentally, the Summers plantation is nearby, so Clay figures he can visit Kathy for some much-needed support when the time is right. Clay and his team of volunteers, this is a suicide mission after all, only volunteers need to apply, reach the spot and despite the local guide being iced by the Yankees, manage to traverse inside the mountain and reach the flat top where they set up their guns. Clay has also managed to sneak into the Summers house, which the Union has set up as an outpost to protect their railway, and meet with Kathy, who agrees to become his fifth columnist for him. Whenever Kathy hears of any intel from the rather sociable Yankee soldiers, such as the impending arrival of the supply trains, she signals Clay and his men from her bedroom window with either a mirror or a lantern depending on the time of day. With Kathy's help, Clay and his strike force manage to intercept 2 supply trains and blow them both up. Given the height of the mountain, which is beyond the range of the North's guns, and the snipers inside the mountain denying them the ability to into the mountain caves, the North sends in a troubleshooter to stop them, Major Will Denning, who is unaware there's good Confederate friends on top of that mountain. But Kathy does know. Union headquarters sends in the big-ass naval-source Dahlgren gun to set up a position right outside the range of Clay's guns, with the intention of blasting them into submission. But Kathy strips her piano of its wire and sneaks it over to Clay so he can use the piano wire to reinforce his guns and use double charges and maximum elevation to just about surprise the Yanks and blow their massive gun out of commission, and block the railway even further with its wreckage. By this point, Will has had enough, and it has his men mined inside the mountain with enough explosives to blow that entire mountaintop to Kingdom Come. Kathy finally tells him that Clay is there, and Will decides to allow Clay's men to surrender before the impending big boom. But Kathy is mistaken for an intruder while heading up there and is accidentally shot. Clay, who has learned of the plans to send him and his men straight upwards in the blaze of glory, figures that, well, let them blow us up. The debris will fall all over the railway and keep that thing unusable quite some time. We finish our job here and the Yankees will complete our mission for us. With a dying Kathy in his arms, Clay sends his men to surrender, while he stays behind with Kathy and accepts his fate. With a budget of $300,000, derived from investment $1 shares, King Brothers Productions shot the film, and Menzies, who uses extraordinary talent in designing the film, as well as directing it, turns into a film which actually feels like a big budget war film, despite not actually being a big budget war film. To be fair, while it is nowhere near the stature of Gone with the Wind, it does prove to be a surprisingly solid Civil War B-grade war film, with some poignant views on the realities of war and the status of friendships of those not personally inside the major military conflict, as well as adding the forbidden love story subplot that, while not exactly too integral to the grand scheme of things as far as the action is concerned, does prove crucial in the finale. Menzies, who also lent his skills to the raw production design for this film, has an impeccable eye for period detail. Everything from the sets to the uniforms looks legit to classify as being authentic. And the battle scenes, while which are financially cramped due to the low budget, most certainly don't look cheap. The attack on the trains and the downing of the big-ass naval gun was very impressive for the budget this thing was operating on. And the acting is first-rate for a B film as well. James Clayton and Barbara Payton make a good pairing as the secret lovers. Barton McLean is also good in this, playing one of the Clay's men, and also provides good support. Drums in the Deep South was a modest hit at the box office at the time, but due to some mismanagement by RKO, the plans for a follow-up fell through, and King Brothers launched a lawsuit against RKO for their meddling. Given that today's far-left climate has resulted in films like Gone with the Wind being removed from streaming sites, I fear that this film, if it is on any streaming site, might meet the same fate, or even be targeted by the cancel culture idiots that seek to erase history in order to meet their anti-historical agenda. This is a public domain film, and anybody out there who has a copy should keep this safe, and even upload it to the internet if you can, so people everywhere can see a decent film that was mined ahead of the time. It's actually a pretty good lesson in the horrors of war and bond of friendship, as well as being a solid war film. I give Drums of the Deep South a B, a 6 out of 10. It's a solid Civil War action romance. Now, I don't do requests, but if you want to know if I have a particular DVD in my collection to review, just hit me up in the comments page. Hope you guys are staying safe, and that's it for this review.